We'll call to order the regular meeting of Ascension Parish Council, March 2nd, 2017. Please stand for the prayer and the pledge. Mr. Dawson, please lead us in the prayer. Mr. Ken Dawson.
Thank you, sir. Let us pray. Father, again, we thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us, all the gifts you continue to give us, oh Lord. And as we go through this Lent season, we pray that we focus upon you and all the goodness that you've given us and done. Father, we pray that you give us wisdom to guide the people's business in Ascension Parish to do well for them, oh God, and to have a spirit of unity, have a spirit of oneness, so that we will do the people's business in the way that you will have it done. We thank you for all the things you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see. We have missing. Todd Lambert. Well, Madam Secretary, Councilman Lambert, the only one not here tonight.
Which one? Councilman Todd right here.
Yeah, Todd Lambert.
Yeah. Okay. I got two. For a second, that's just wondering where he was.
Hey, there are no chair additions for tonight. Public comment period. If you have if you want to comment on an item, please come up and fill out a card. Mr. President, you have your report for tonight?
Yes, Council. We'll be sending out a policy to the Transportation Committee tomorrow on the GPSs. I will be moving forward with plans to put the devices on all vehicles, and we will have to purchase these different type of GPSs for the equipment. I think it's about 25 of them, and we'll come with you with the cost of that at the Drainage Committee. The Edenborn Road will be building out construction next week, I think at next Thursday-ish, to get that rolling. On the DC trip, we had a very productive meeting with our entire congressional delegation. We made a big push with the federal agencies and our representatives to ensure that Ascension Parish gets its fair share of the money. We spoke for the need of more funds in the next round of the federal disaster money. We would like to see some of those funds come directly to the parish so we can get going and do what we need to do. We spoke to the Corps of Engineers and let them know that it takes too long to get projects moving and permits to do that. I was very happy to deliver a letter to the Corps from the 5 parishes, which we had the Drainage Summit, to push forward the Co-Meet Diversion Project, West Shore, and the dredging of Bayou Manchac. I was glad to hear that President Trump will be having a big infrastructure budget, hopefully. We know that road dollars should follow economic growth, so we are pushing with and working with our representatives to fight for the road dollars that we need. Of course, industrial growth is very important to Ascension. We asked our delegation to push the Modest property for the big industrial development, and we hope to see something in the near future. Good things happen in Ascension Parish, and good things will be coming from our federal partners. Thank you.
Any questions for the Parish President? Thank you. Next item is I'm going to give a report on similar to what we did in Washington. We had a NACO conference, and then we had a meeting with our delegation. The NACO conference is a conference of National Counties Association, so every government that's similar to ours across the United States are part of this. It was like a 5-day conference. They had some 40 plus presentations and workshops, things that range from healthy communities to items on finance. There were a very wide variety of topics that people could choose to go to. Gives you an idea that we in Ascension Parish are not alone in a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve. These problems are nationwide, and we looked at ways other people are looking at this and how they're solving these problems. Additionally, we used that time to go and meet with our congressional delegation and also some of the agencies. We first met with the United States Corps of Engineers. We talked to them specifically about our permits. We talked to them specifically about their process of approving these permits, or maybe we could call that a non-process. So we talked to them about that the issues that we have with that is that we can't get a timeline for receiving permits for clearing and dredging, etc. We're going to follow up with that with the local office, but we thought it was good that we met with the people in Washington about the same items. We also met with FEMA, and we talked to FEMA about the response to our August 2016 flood, and we all told them that their response was unsatisfactory. In FIP, that our National Flood Insurance Program that they oversee, people paid their premiums on time, people paid their taxes on time, but they didn't receive their payments on time. So, we talked to them about that. We also talked to them about the inspectors and the people that came in and did the estimates for people's damage, that there was a lot of inconsistency there. So generally, and I think we got that point across, that Ascension Parish was unsatisfied with the response that was made by FEMA during that event. We met with several senators and congressmen. We met with first Mr. Clay Higgins. Even though he doesn't represent our district, he's one of the supporters. You've got to get 50 some odd votes in the House to pass something, so he represents St. Landry. But he was very receptive to our input. We talked to him about the Corps. We talked to him about FEMA. We talked to him about the industrial development that we have in Ascension Parish and the fact that we're not receiving the infrastructure to compensate us for the industrial development that we have here. We talked to Senator John Kennedy. We talked to him about the disaster aid. We talked to him about industrial development. And each one of these people, we told them that we weren't satisfied with FEMA, that we're not satisfied with the way the Corps is run currently, and that we should be able to receive permits. You should be able to know what the timeline is on a permit. We talked to him also about the fact that in the infrastructure bill, that we think we should get some priorities for that. If the Trump administration has an infrastructure bill, we think we should get priorities because we're the ones that are carrying the load for the energy in the United States. We have a large section of industrial development here. We don't have the roads, the exit roads. We don't have the supply roads that we need to supply those industries. We talked to Congressman Garrett Graves twice. We actually met with him the night before the State of the Union message. That would have been Monday night. We met with him on the House floor at about 9:30 at night. Kind of a unique experience, but he talked to us and answered our questions about things that apply to us in the district. We met with Congressman Cedric Richmond's staff people. He was having to go vote at the time. We didn't actually get to meet with him, but in each one of these meetings we had I have to count them, but either an 8 or 10 point handout that we handed to each one of them consistently, that these are the things that we'd like to see improved. We met with Congressman, or the Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, and we had a very short period of time with him, but we met quite a bit with his chief aide and told her all of these items, and that again, FEMA, we're not satisfied with that, the industrial development, that we'd like to see more infrastructure for us that are bearing that load for industrial development. We could not schedule a meeting with the EPA. I can't answer to you why, but we were not able to. I think just go over briefly, and we had 7 council members that were there, and they will probably have some comments on this, but generally speaking, when we talked about disaster aid, there was a $462 million tranche of money that came down from the federal government that the state allocated. We got 1% of that. We know that we were more damaged than 1% of the state. NFIP is coming up for reauthorization, National Flood Insurance Program, coming up for reauthorization in September of 2017. And we told each one of them that they need to improve the response, that the response that was made in August of 2016 in Ascension Parish, again, was unsatisfactory, all the way from the FEMA trailers to the flow of money to us. There are a couple of kind of specific things that we talked about, which was Water Resources Development Act, that we get some money from them every year, and we ask that they continue that and that we be able to use that for construction rather than research. In the infrastructure, we talked to people specifically about that, and again, hate to repeat myself, but we repeated ourselves about 8 times during this process, and each time we said the same thing, that Ascension Parish has a large share of the country's industrial development, and we produce the energy, we transport the energy, we refine the energy here in Louisiana, but we don't get our share of infrastructure to support that. So there's supposed to be evacuation routes, there's supposed to be supply routes, and so we're going to push hard in the administration, if there's an infrastructure bill, to get money here relative to what we're doing as far as the national economy. So I have to look at the paper. We also talked to everyone about our 17,000-acre industrial park on the West Bank, and we told them that we have this facility. We're looking for an industrial client to establish itself, a good quality jobs industrial client, and that we would appreciate any support that they could give us, that we don't think that the current ozone regulations are conducive to industrial development, and they're also, in some cases, they don't make sense, because plants that want to come and locate in Ascension Parish, even though they've declared us entertainment, they still have to go and buy credits from one of their competitors before they can get a permit. So it just, these are the kind of things that don't really make sense. We were very receptive on that, and as the parish president said, we had these projects that we talked to all of them about: Comeet River diversion, the West Shore project, and the clearing and dredging of Bayou Manchac. So that's a summary of my notes on that, and I would welcome any of the council people that were there. Mr. Lawler.
Yes, I'm not going to repeat everything that Councilman Dawson said. He had a very good overview of the infrastructure concerns. Obviously, infrastructure is a paramount concern of this council. We were very fortunate. We had an impromptu meeting with Dr. Sean Wilson, the Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Transportation. We were able to discuss Highway 42 with him. He is working hard, so as he told us, to get Highway 42 bidded out for construction before the May deadline that they currently have. This is something that we had spoken, I had spoken with the governor about back when he was running for office, when he came to Galvez Seafood in Prairieville, and we talked about that, and I asked him not to forget us, and we're hoping that this gets done well before the May bidding date. As Councilman Dawson said, we discussed the Trump infrastructure bill with our potential with the congressional delegation, and how we can place Ascension Parish into a position to obtain our fair share of the funds. We are an industrial and energy corridor, and we need the funds to improve our infrastructure so we can keep this growth going. You did a great job. I must say, overall, we were very pleased with the response that we received from our congressional delegation. I must single out Congressman Graves, who did a really fantastic job and was very knowledgeable about the concerns and the issues that we have in Ascension Parish. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Kluat.
Yeah, real quick, just to compliment what you guys have talked about. The parish president hit on it, the St. Landry Edenborn connector. As we look at Lamar Landry as a safe haven for hurricanes, and look at the history of what we've been able to do with that site in Ascension Parish to help the whole southeastern part of Louisiana. We hit Sean also with that, and try to make sure that the state comes through. We got some pending funds from the state that we want to get nailed down, but we got to get moving on this project. And so he's very much aware of how important that is to us. Also, you talked about the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, based on some of our meetings on Capitol Hill, and also meetings with other parishes. That a couple Councilman Lambert, Dempsey Lambert, and myself, and a couple more, we met with several of the other parishes on, we have a relationship since we started fighting Bigger Water Act 2.5 years ago, and with GNOI Inc., GNO Inc., Michael Heck and Caitlin Burney, and their series of meetings and the work that they're doing, they have a bullet point program to hit at what's hurting us, and before it comes up for renewal, we can expect several more good meetings on that with those folks. And we also have within NACO, we've got the caucus of the Gulf Coast Counties and Parishes caucus that we met. Councilman Cagnalotti was in there, and several of you, I don't remember who all, as we sat in there. Just another group that has a main focus on everything, whether it's flood protection, coastal restoration, and NFIP, that this group is trying to carry. We're in a good position right here, right now, because we got the one of our council members from Calcasieu Parish that chairs that national committee, and he's got a great voice going forward. So, we expect some good input from them to help us out, and we'll try to continue that dialogue coming back and forth. So, and you talked about the governor and the
Restore.
the money coming back from flood. The Restore Louisiana Task Force that's appointed by the governor, we're going to move that meeting. The next meeting for that will be on Friday, May the 17th at 9:30 in the morning at Lamar Dixon. That committee will be coming. It's not necessarily a road show, but they've made a promise to the people of Louisiana to move around. And I guess I want to reiterate the history of this task force within the governor. When he assigned this task force, it was probably several months in before anybody from Ascension Parish got in there. So I managed to get in, thanks to this council, the administration, and our state representatives. And still not a voting member, and I'll work on that. But at least you got a voice there. But they did make a promise to go around the state. We've got 51 parishes that are involved in this. They did include the March storm. And as Chairman Dawson said, that we got a little over 1% of the first piece of money. We hope to try to get into double digits on the second one. And then we feel like the appointment of the HUD director is going to be the key to us getting in. There's a lot of HUD oversight on this money, and everybody we talked to on Capitol Hill is the governor's been up there. He just left. He left probably about the time we got there, whatever. And so we'll continue to work on that. But that money hasn't been. The task force makes recommendations to the governor's office, and we'll try to keep up with the recommendations of the task force to make sure that it tries to suit the people of Ascension Parish and help some of the people that we have that have been flooded. It's another $2 billion. We should be able to get a little bit of that, Bill.
If we get double digits on that,
We'd be doing real good. One thing that we all discussed is the various ways and the different pots of money that we can go in, not only on this disaster recovery, but to get money for infrastructure and facilities. We have some facilities that's down that I know Rick Weber and administration hunting around trying to get some of this stuff straight. So got a lot of work in front of us. And I just want to add that on the Washington trip.
thank you. Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let everyone know what every one of the reps and senators, now that they realize that Ascension Parish has taken in St. Bernard Parish, Kenner, a lot of these other places that Katrina victims have reflooded again. So I think it really hit home. We have some of these folks that, they could take care of their homes, but there's some that they're just not going to make it. We're dealing with black mold, different things. There's going to be health issues in this parish, and I think it really caught some eyes. So I think help's on the way. So thank you, and Mr. Chairman, you done a good job. Thank you, man.
Councilman Satterley or Councilman Turner, do you guys have anything to comment on this?
No, I'll just identify myself as one of the 4 that did not attend. I had the flu really bad, but all I've heard, Mr. Chairman, is from all the, I think you said 7 and 8 individuals that went. It's been very, very positive that our delegations are starting to understand that, we're not the redhead orphan stepchild, Ascension Parish, and hopefully some of this money for roads and drainage and so forth is going to start coming our way. And I applaud the effort of my colleagues, and I thank you for your leadership role at the NACO conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Turner?
Nothing.
Thank you. Councilman Joseph?
Yeah, I just want to thank all our delegation for spending time. It was 2 long days on the Hill, believe me, 2 long days. So we visit and talk, and that's, I would honestly say that's the most we can talk to our delegation for the time I've been here, 2 long days. So good job by the council, parish president, and chairman. Thank you.
Councilwoman Casso?
It would be redundant of me, sir, to have too much more to say other than thank you very much and the administration for the efforts at coordinating our activities. I think it went very, very well. I would be remiss if I did not mention that Congressman Graves was very understanding of our issues in my district with Spanish Lake and the Bluff Swamp, and with the issues around our permitting of a control structure at Frog Bayou, and committed the resources of his office to help us to get that done. So he seemed to understand that we didn't, as did the other members of our delegation, that we didn't need to go to the bottom of the stack at the Corps, because the flood resulted in us needing, as a result of what happened there, to reconsider the engineering of those locks and to do something on a more massive scale. So I was very excited. I appreciate you and all the efforts, and I was happy to be there. Thank you.
Yeah. Councilman Cagnolati?
I just echo what everybody's saying. We kind of were chuckling yesterday, day before yesterday, saying that everybody down here had the day off and we were working. So your council was working very hard. As Oliver said, we spent 2 intense days meeting with agencies that matter, that have a direct effect on us as Ascension Parish. And we met with the entire legislative delegation, everyone that represents us, plus Congressman Higgins. I will share that on the plane ride back, I looked up and saw Garrett Graves. And as I was boarding the plane, he was already seated. He told me, he said, look, tell your delegation, thank you for coming by, and let them know that I have already spoken to the governor and Louisiana Economic Development about our mega site, which we mentioned that we asked him to try to help us with that. So we have someone interested in it, and I think he's trying to help us get that.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. President, you have anything else to add on that?
Well, I called Bill up today to talk about debris because the residents are still tearing out, and it's going to be, I would think, late summer by the time they stop. So we're going to have to talk about what we want to do for as, we're going to meet next week with OEP and all to talk about reimbursement, but we got to take care of these residents. I mean, right now, he's still using his trucks, but he's using his men in that area, which is falling behind on the regular work. So we're going to have to talk about, do we want to continue with the big trucks? Or if we do the little trucks, we're going to have to, hire more people or whatever. So we're going to try to get some numbers together on that. And Rick is going to let us know if we have to try to bid out another company to document or not, because if you don't document, you don't get paid. So we'll have a meeting next week about that to move forward, but there is still a lot of people out there hurting, and debris is still out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item that we have is a report from the committees. So we're going to try to incorporate this into the agenda for the meeting. So, Councilwoman Casso, do you have something on finance?
I do not. I do not have any report tonight. However, I would invite everyone to tune in at 5:30 on the 7th. That's Tuesday night for our Finance Committee meeting. And watch that. You'll see how the process begins and how things then end up here for council approval.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee Chairman Aaron Lawler.
No, I don't have anything to add. Our last Transportation Committee happened prior to the last council meeting, so nothing new has changed. We do have a meeting this Monday at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. And Utilities Committee Chairman Randy Kluot.
Yeah, just to bring anybody up to date that missed it, our last utilities meeting, we voted to move away from the P3 at this time, and that was brought to the council for a full vote. We're trying to refocus back on the P16 area, which was our original mission we were focusing on, and that's based on Bayou Manchac, and we've had several reports from DEQ and everybody else, and we've got some strict laws and some stuff that came down that we've been talking about for about 5 years on Bayou Manchac. Well, it's finally happened, so we're going to have to take care of that one, and so that's what we'll be looking at going forward. We got it. We have somebody doing an evaluation of the East Bank, and looking at that whole plan right now. The administration rather is doing that, and finalizing an agreement on the West Bank, St. Jude, to take in, looking at St. Jude, the hotels and Tractor Supply, and also in conjunction with that, working with an agreement for additional capacity, because that'll pretty much take our capacity at the time, looking at additional capacity with the city of Donaldsonville. And so there's nothing really moving on that right now, but that's in the works. And I just want to bring out and all the parish workers, thank them, that and I think Mr. Dawson and Mr. Joseph know about this more than me, is that working during the tornado, after the tornado event, and it was power out, that they rallied up and got generators to the water, and everybody went without any loss of water supply or even low pressure. So it was that was a great thing. And we're doing kind of doing a detail of the report to kind of protect us and lock in the SRS 60 million. Not necessarily doing a detail of spending all the 60 million, but locking in that money with the agency, because we're going to reach a deadline where it's up, and this time we want to try to at least do that. During our state convention conference 2 weeks ago, several of us went to a nice sewer facility in Lake Charles. I think, Doc, you and Benny and several others had made that last round and saw it. Look, this is a great facility.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drink the water, nor would I ask anybody to drink the water, but it's just, it looks that good, and there's almost no smell anywhere. If you put some painted a facade on the side of it with windows and all that, you would think it's almost in the shape of of an auditorium or something, or a football stadium. So it's very much there. It's a very large plant. We have but they have the engineering capacity to build it smaller and to do whatever we want, but also build it with future growth. So that's something that we're looking at. Benny, past chair Benny Johnson, had worked on that for a couple of years, and they got a real good look at it. So that's something we were able to do, and that's what we're looking like in utilities right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Strategic planning, we have Chairman Satterley.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I guess I should have checked with the professor on what the assignment was, because I didn't interpret it so much as a report about what we're about to do as much as what we've done in 2016. So I'll just say a little bit about both and try to be very brief. Very pleased to report to the council and everyone out there that we sort of started off the year with a double whammy with a 6-month moratorium and the transportation road impact fee ordinance that we tackled. The latter was largely because the Planning Commission had spent the 2 previous years, of course, trying to have the Transportation Impact Fee Exploratory Committee bring a recommendation, and when they didn't, we sort of grabbed hold of that and pushed it through our committee. Everyone probably knows very quickly we did pass an impact fee ordinance, and I'm very pleased. I understand someone here would know more about this than me. It's already generated over $1 million in income in just its first year of instigation. Of course, since we did that, the moratorium became sort of a moot thing, and so that was dropped. Moratoriums, of course, require that you have a reason for them, and the reason would have been to give us time to develop the transportation road impact fee, which we did. I'd like to also say, and I'm looking forward to Councilman Lawler's transportation committee on this item, because I understand Duncan's has now completed the study that we paid him to do to try to get our impact fee ordinance up to date relative to amounts charged for the different types of developments. I understand, Mr. Chairman, that's going to occur next Monday at the Transportation Committee meeting, and I'd like to thank whoever did it, if it's you, that for members not of the committee, that Clancy Mullins is going to have so I've already indicated I'll attend that for sure, a little meeting to kind of let us know what's going on there. Another thing that happened last year that I'm particularly proud of is that we have saw fit to modify the Ascension Parish Employee Appeals Ordinance. Currently requires that the overturn of any parish president's decision to terminate an employee, it requires 2/3 of the council membership during the actual vote of a public hearing, be that in executive session or in public, at the choice of the employee. We have attempted at strategic planning to modify that to 2/3 of the members present at any appeals vote. As legal counsel pointed out to us, and we took that advice, Home Rule Charter is the law that's involved in here. In order to change that, it takes a vote of the people. And so right now, I think everybody knows that to eliminate this unfairness of an employee having to withstand any negative votes whatsoever, which has happened in 2 cases recently, when every council member is not there. In other words, you have absences from the appeals vote. We're going to try to get that hopefully on maybe the October agenda. Why not sooner? We learned after we passed it through committee and through the full council, and it's been deferred as a result, that there's going to be a special election, I think, in April in Sorrento, and we don't want to share a cost of a whole bunch more money to put that lone thing on the ballot, but hopefully that'll come through shortly. Elimination of the Planning Commission's Appeals Board, replacement of its functions by the council. That was a recent thing we did. That, as you know, passed unanimously out of Strategic Planning Committee. It was recently introduced, I think at the very last meeting, in fact, of this full council, as a revision to the Land Development Code ordinance that affects the same. And so that means we're just awaiting for passage of that into law. Likely that'll occur, Mr. Chairman, at your discretion, I guess, at our next council meeting in March, if that's when I see by the head nod. So for the record, I guess we're going to take that back up in March and put it through. I'm not as happy or as proud to tell you that we've solved the issue of the hot topic, and it's no pun intended there, of the burn ordinance, number 5. Sufficient to say the parish has none. And so what we did, we got with legal, and O'Neill graciously sent me something that was modeled after the Gonzales and state laws, respectively. We went through lots of committee discussions. We couldn't quite get together to bring a recommendation to the full council, so we just sent it to the full council without a recommendation for further discussion. That maybe with the wisdom of a bigger group, we could get it done. Fortunately or unfortunately, and I mean that, I don't know how to even view this, the full council saw fit to send it back to strategic planning. So, Mr. Chairman, it will be back on our agenda again at the next meeting, which, let me announce that now. Anyone that would like to attend, that's next Thursday. And the other thing I'd like to thank you about on that is that instead of being before recreation, we're going to follow recreation, because our meetings tend to be, as you know, very philosophical, because we're the guys that either change existing law that may not be working anymore because they're dated, or maybe it was a poor law to begin with, or even come up like with the burn ordinance, new laws. And I'd like to thank Councilman Turner for being willing to switch those time slots with us. So thank you, Travis. Traffic impact studies, that's something we're working on now. So this is more in keeping about the previous councilman's reports, what's coming down the pipeline. Here we're seeking, Mr. Chairman, to modify the existing law, that would be Section 405I of the Land Development Code, with the express purpose of putting more quote-unquote teeth into the currently required traffic impact analyses that are in that section. In fact, there's not a whole lot there. It's a paragraph or so. It covers both that and drainage, and we'll talk about that in a second. And actually, we have a form inside the parish that kind of directs the process, although that's not law. The problem that I saw was, and many people are saying that, not the least of which a former parish engineer that was expert in this area of traffic, Mr. Bob Horner, once said, after doing a theoretical study for me, that yes, these studies as we're doing them right now may not be worth the paper they're written on. So at the last strategic planning meeting, we introduced the possibility of using some land development code modifications of 405I. These would have been modifications, additions that former planning director Ricky Compton was working on before he left us, and we saw fit at this point to defer it to the next meeting, which again is this coming Thursday. So it is back again on our agenda with the burn ordinance, requesting that our current director of planning and development, Mr. Jerome, I'm gonna try this, Fournier. Did I get it, Jerome? Oh, I got a head nod. Thank the dear Lord. He's going to give us a report, of course, in his recommendations, so we're looking forward to that. On the heels then of any modifications or recommendations that would come out of our committee on traffic impact analyses, I think the same can be said with the drainage impact studies. The Great Flood of 2016 may be some proof of that, so we're looking to improve the land development codes that underlie drainage requirements that are placed upon, of course, developers and everyone else in the parish that's bringing new development. And so that'll be forthcoming. We'll probably wait. The committee sort of decided when I first took the chairmanship role, having been vice chair previously, before 2016, when Councilman Kent Scheck had the reins, that we probably ought to try one at a time, because the topics we do consider are very, very controversial and require lots of discussion before we get to the point of a recommendation or not. So I'm at this point thinking we'll finish traffic impact first before we tackle number 7 in my notes here, which is the drainage impact studies themselves. And then last but not least on the agenda is the development of mission statement for our committee for strategic planning to include, for inclusion in the council bylaws. This is sort of an interesting thing. It always has been to me. Currently, there is zero description of the purposes for even having a strategic planning committee in Ascension Parish, and as a result, what are its duties and responsibilities in the bylaws. If you look at our bylaws, you will see that finance and transportation each have at least a paragraph or more saying this is what this standing committee does. And I believe that needs to be rectified, and I won't point any fingers, but we'll be replacing a former committee member and putting another one on there, see by the smile, to see if we can't get that done. If not, old Doc Sally might just grab the bull by the horns and write something or whatever. Again, I want to thank all my committee members. I'd like to name them. Formerly in 2016, that would have been Bill Dawson. When we escalated him to the chair of the full council, he was replaced with John Cagnolati. And John, I don't know if I've ever publicly expressed my appreciation to have you on the committee. Welcome aboard. It's going to be fun. Strap in. Councilman Lawler, who stayed with us both from 16 to 17, as well as myself, Mr. Joseph, and Benny Johnson. I'd like to thank all these guys. They've worked really hard, and I appreciate their efforts. And that's my report.
Thank you. And we have Recreation, Councilman Turner.
I'm gonna try to be brief as usual. But the main
You can
update we have is the gym at Lamar Dixon is the renovation's coming along fine and it's looking good and should be done. I think they said around June. And that's it.
I would like to, unless somebody has an objection, and I don't want to surprise Councilman Johnson, but we have Personnel Committee was left off here. If anybody has any objection to that, we'll add Councilman Johnson. Do you have anything on personnel?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We are going to be hosting a Personnel Committee meeting this month. We've got some interviews to do. We also are in need of some applicants for different boards. We sent out, Ms. Cinnamon sent out an email to everybody last week in reference to that. So there's some committees that are looking for folks. West Ascension, Fire District Number 2, which is the west bank of the parish. We've got a few folks that are resigning off of that or retiring off of that board, so we're going to need some folks on there as well as some of the other boards around. So if you know of anyone that's interested, or if anyone out there in the audience that's might be listening or watching, if you care to participate in some of the parish government entities as far as what we have, there's several boards out there. You can contact us, and we can put you in contact with folks and let you know what board vacancies we have. So we're looking for some good folks to participate.
Thank you. Item 12.
Move to adjourn.
Motion. Second. Any opposition? Thank you.